Okay, so in today's video, we will be discussing how to um, create an indoor space for your plants. So as you can see in this setup, I have my succulents and other plants here, and on this side I have my carnivorous plants. So this was a setup that I've done a few months back. I'm sorry for all the clutter that you can see, because some plants just arrived, specifically these two, and we're kind of still moving things around. Later I'll show you why, because we have another space for the plants which is on our studio, and you will be seeing that. And of course, here you can see my two little clownfish. Don't be fooled by them, they're around 8 years old. Anyway, so what is the basic things that we need to set up an indoor space for your plants? So plants need soil, number one. Number two, they also need sunlight. They also need the correct amount of moisture, and they also need the correct temperature to live in. So basically, that's not everything, right? But in a nutshell, that's what you need to replicate what's outside. So first, we'll deal with the lighting. So in this case, I have different lightings for different setups. So in this case, if you can see on my non-carnivorous side, we have 3 CFL bulbs. One is daylight, and those two are warm white lights. And so far, the cactuses, the succulents are doing well. I even have an African violet that's currently not yet flowering, but some of them are already flowering. So yeah, so basically the lights are 24 watts each, and you can buy them at any hardware store near you. We also have some of the air plants here. So they just had a bath, so I placed them in a I placed them in a container with water. We will be discussing that in another video on how to do that soaking for those who are interested in keeping air plants. And here we have our carnivorous plants. So in our carnivorous plants, they are much more pickier in terms of environment. So number one, they have to be standing in water. So that's why there is a tray where they are in. The lights, it's still the 24 watt CFLs. The only difference is for carnivorous plants, my setup is normally like 3 in here we have 3 daylight bulbs and 1 warm white bulb. As I mentioned earlier, you need sunlight, you need temperature, you need humidity. So for my carnivorous plants, they need to be somewhere in the room temperature range, which is somewhere between 22 and 29 degrees Celsius. So which is perfect, because in our room there's always air condition, so at least we benefit from the air condition and they're benefiting from it too. This thing is, if you haven't guessed already, it's a humidifier. So we installed the humidifier because they want the humidity to be somewhere between 50 and 80%. And because there is heat coming off from those CFL bulbs, the tendency is that the humidity will drop because the heat is sucking out all the moisture in the air. So that's supplemented by the humidifier that you can see here. Okay, so now if you are interested in keeping carnivorous plants, the water that they're standing there of each pot, those are aircon water. So it's from the exhaust of the aircon. You could also use distilled water, you can also use rainwater, but since the aircon's running most of the time, we figured let's just use the aircon exhaust water instead, or the aircon drain water. Okay, so now we will go to the studio so that you could see the LED setup, because here, as I mentioned, each bulb is around 24 watts. So since I have 4 on this side and 3 on this side, so that's, you can, if you do the math, that's a lot of bulbs, that's a lot of electricity that you're consuming. So yeah, but comparing that to how expensive the lights, the grow lights are, this is a very good substitute. By the way, how far are the lights from the plants? So there are plants that require more light, so in that case I place them around 5.5-6 inches away from the pot. While here, these ones are fairly new to the setup, so for now I'm keeping them a little bit further away. So that's around 8 inches, 10 inches away from the pot, the light. Okay, so in the succulent section, it's pretty much almost the same. So around 5.5 inches away from the pots. So that's basically how you set up your lights. So now let's go to the other side to see the LED setup that I've had for my nursery. Okay, so now we are on our indoor nursery. So as you can see here, we have our non-carnivorous section again, and this is our carnivorous section. So on the non-carnivorous, you could see there are some tomatoes, there are some lettuces there that are growing. There are also some cuttings from the succulents. Carnivorous plants, the same thing. So we have some seeds that are waiting to germinate, some of the sundews that are flowering or just flowered. So now so they're all here also. So what's the difference? So here we have two 22 watt 3 feet long LED bulbs. So they are situated right around the same height now, because I don't want to shock the plants in any way. So currently they are at around 5.5-6 inches away from the pots. Now the biggest difference is the heat. So as you can see, these bulbs, you could actually hold them. They're not gonna give off any heat. So what happens there is it's not sucking out any moisture from the environment, from the air. So in this setup, I kind of did away with that humidifier already. And just like the setup inside, we also have a plastic cover. That way I could keep much of the moisture of the air as possible. Also, something that I failed to mention, these lights, both the CFLs and the LEDs, they run from around 14 to 16 hours a day. So that replicates the amount of light that the plants get from the outside. So you could actually lower the the photo period, or the amount, or that time when the lights are on. But in that case, you have to pull the plants closer to the light. So it's really a balance. It depends on what your situation is, what lights you're gonna get for the setup. For the LEDs, you could do that because, as I mentioned earlier, they don't give off as much heat as the CFL. So that's one advantage. The only disadvantage is getting the right LED. So not unlike the CFLs where you could get it on any hardware stores, this one I was able to purchase from a plant lighting store. So it's basically, the guy is really selling some grow lights. So I got it from him. I could put the link on the description below, but of course if you're not living here in the Philippines, so most probably you wouldn't be able to buy from him. So, and of course the cost, so this one is a bit more expensive than the CFL bulbs, although in the long run, since it's only running for 22 watts a bulb, it's more cost efficient in terms of energy consumption. So you really have to make that balance for yourself. So now the another question that you might ask, how about the air condition? Do I need the air condition to grow plants? The general answer is no. So it depends, again, it depends on the environment that you're living in. So if it's too hot or if it's too cold, then you have to adjust for whatever plants you want to keep. So in my case, since I'm keeping carnivorous plants and a lot of them require a temperature between 22 to 29, and if you have an environment that has that temperature, then you don't need an air condition. But now, because it's summer here in the Philippines, we tend to run the air conditioner more. So again, it depends on where you live and what your environment is. So that's something that I really cannot teach. So it also depends on what plants you plan to keep. So again, we will go through each one of the plants, the carnivorous plants and the non-carnivorous plants that I keep, and how I keep them on another video. So yeah, I guess that's it for this video. I hope you've learned a lot, and I hope I've inspired you to do an indoor space for your plants. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. It will help the channel a lot. And thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.